Putin
Yes.
gets whatever he wants.
Putin puppets.
This is you're
yes.
appeasing aggression.
Yes.
And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Steve, this is where they intuit what you just said, which is absolutely correct. They intuit that what's really going on is the strategy, and Marco Rubio laid this out in his confirmation hearing. The strategy of we are no longer going to be the global hegemon.
Exactly.
Russia is going to be there at the end of the day. China is going to be there. So you have to have a policy, and the policy can't be we're going to war and regime change and the rest of it.
Being a hegemon means you're an imperial power, not an imperial power. And by the way, the key thing is to, in the rapprochement, to bring Russia into our camp, break them off from the CCP.
And then you balance.
Just for the audience, President Trump has to balance all this. This is why he's the master deal maker. This is quite complicated. I would say don't get too worked up about this. I don't actually see. First off, there's a question of geography. Number one, if you look at the deal itself, Brian, most of the rare earths we're talking about, minerals we're talking about, are actually in a place called the Donbass.
But Steve, you know, Putin
and if
put out
not
a statement on that.
If not
Putin
that,
said,
Russian tanks are sitting on the rest of it.
But he said, hey, Putin said, hey, you signing deals, I'll sign you a deal too.
Exactly. So I think there's some reality here. Brian, you got to get ready. So Brian, next time we see Brian, we'll hear his voice in the Oval Office. That's going to be approximately 11 o'clock, Brian?
Yeah, that's assuming that Zelensky gets here on time. We'll find out that. But it's scheduled about 11:05, just shortly after 11 o'clock hour.
So what we're going to do, Brian Glenn, what is your social media so people can keep up with you with your travels? Also today, later, Brian, you are going to be on what plane leaving here?
That would be Air Force One out of Joint Base Andrews, headed to Florida on the weekend, covering President Trump on the ground there in Florida. Stay tuned to me, Brian Glenn TV across the board, at Brian on Truth Social, and at Brian Glenn TV on Getter. Yep.
I knew Brian Glenn was just some schmendrick doing the right side broadcast, grinding out in these fields, you know, covering the thing. Baby, you've come a long way.
Mosinee, Wisconsin.
Mosinee. Brian Glenn, it shows you. You keep grinding, folks, good things are going to happen. We love you, brother.
You.
Brian Glenn's going to be back
it,
in the Oval. We're going to have coverage live of all this today. Also, Air Force One, the takeoff. We're going to take a short commercial break. Jackie Masovics with me. Talk about the Trump effect. The war President Trump wants to get on is the war against the Mexican cartels, and he's on it. A massive development overnight. Extradition of, I think, 28 of the worst of the cartel leaders. As President Trump preps the kinetic part of the war that matters on our southern border with the cartels. We're going to take a short commercial break. By the way, no better time now than text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898 to get your free brochure. Investing in gold and precious metals in the era of Trump, the ultimate guide from Birch Gold. Short break. Back with Poso next.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We're live at the Patriot Mobile headquarters in Grapevine, Texas. I want to thank Glenn Story and the team. We're going to, if we can't fit it in today because of Zelensky, we're going to have Patriot Mobile on hopefully this afternoon. And tomorrow I'm giving a big speech tonight. Jack is the opening act.
I get to open.
Yes,
I get to open for Steve.
This
oh,
is
boy.
Look at, take Brian Glenn. There it is right there. It's up on the screen right now. If you got to
start somewhere, folks.
If you're in the area, there's still general admission tickets. I think they're opening up seats even as we speak. All the tables are sold out, etc. I'll be doing a meet and greet before, so make sure everybody gets there. Love to hang out with you guys. Want to thank Glenn Story and the entire team. Brian Glenn, I'm telling you, I'm so proud of that guy. Now, so here's the logistics. At 11 o'clock, Zelensky's supposed to show up, I think, at 11.
The color guard's already out.
If we can go to the color guard, if Denver or Harry, if we can do a split screen, I want to see the color guard. It looks pretty impressive.
We were there yesterday.
President
when
Trump's.
Keir Starmer came in.
Were you there yesterday? Were you at the? You were the heat shield. We're going to get into all the.
Well, we're there to see the. Prime Minister.
We have huge breaking news about Cardone. There we are, right there. Great shot. This is the color guard.
So that's imminent.
Yesterday, what was the problem? Pam Bondi oversold this. You had every major influencer there. You had Cerno. You had yourself. You had DC Drano. You had. And you had Congressman Anna Paulina Luna. You got people all over this. It was a big disappointment. Does she, in fact, does DOJ not have the files? Because they sent a letter. And what I will tell you, if there's information there, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are the two best guys in the world to organize this and to get it out, if it can be gotten out. I have no idea about the legality of it. But if you got Kash on point and you have Dan Bongino on point, you have the two best guys. The fiasco yesterday was because of, in your best judgment, why did that happen?
Well, I think what happened was that people were expecting there to be new stuff in these binders. Certainly, we expected there to be new stuff in the binders as well. And we had been invited to the White House.
But hang on,
honored,
but she should. I mean,
it was Caroline Leavitt. It was Caroline Leavitt and JD. That was the invite, was to meet with them, do policy briefings, et cetera, et cetera. The name Epstein was never once even mentioned prior to this. So then the binders come in, and of course we've seen that she's been doing the media tour saying that this is going to come, it's on the desk, we're going to have it soon, puts this out, okay, here
so
you
she
guys
came
go.
over and joined the meeting, essentially.
She joined up, yeah. And we were meeting with Bobby, we met with Rubio. So
you met
with
with major cabinet officials.
They all came through.
Okay, and we're giving you background, which they traditionally do to influencers of the media, et cetera, so you know what's going on.
Yes.
Kind of off the record background, so you guys are fully up to speed on things like today. By the way, split screen right there. If you listen on the podcast, make sure you go to War Room, .org, and get the newsletter. You got to get the videos here. The coverage is amazing, and Real America's Voice doing a great job. Zelensky will be here at 11. He'll go into the Oval. It's another bilat. He'll probably spend a few minutes with the president. Then they will have a press avail, not a press conference, a press avail. Right there, beautiful shot.
So Trump's meeting with an unelected autocrat today.
Yeah, exactly. They get on Trump for being a fascist. This guy, and I think this is going to force him with this deal to actually hold an election. So I assume he's not going to be the president
on the back end of it. So that's what's going to come on the back end, is that if the war ends, so he's currently in power right now, and it'll almost have been a year till May. It will be 1 year since his term ended. So martial law ends, which is constitutional in wartime.
President Trump's doing this again. He's a believer in democracy.
So they got to have an election.
We're going to go to, we got Bensman, we got Oscar Blue Riberos, we have Ben Bergquist. Before we go there, I just want to clean this up. Is that so, I mean, I don't think Pam understands the depth that the Warren Posse and others that have followed this understand the receipts. My understanding is what was released yesterday has already been released in previous federal court filings or in the trial of Maxwell, right? So this information was previously I think the people that are and who love Pam and support her are kind of like, how did you say this stuff on Jesse Waters? And if that's all DOJ's got, you should have known that this stuff's been out there for a while, and particularly people who follow this very closely have already seen this, correct?
Correct. And there's this letter also saying that SDNY is sitting on some of the files as well. There's some whistleblower coming out of there.
But SDNY reports to Main Justice. I mean, SDNY, that's not even Kash. Kash has FBI. And my understanding, I saw the letter. She went to Kash and said, I want everything on my desk by 8 o'clock this morning. And if you got Kash, I don't think Dan Bongino is actually over there yet. But if you have Kash Patel, that's the best guy. I mean, Kash is going to be fierce on this, correct?
There's no question. I mean, he's put out his statements about it. He had some tweets about it last night up on X. So he's looking for the brass tacks because, look, he's been on the job 5 days.
Exactly.
5 days
Right.
he's been on the job, and this has been something that he's been talking about for years.
With SDNY, though, the Southern District of New York reports to Main Justice. I mean, they report to a U.S. attorney, but that U.S. attorney. So if they're saying they're saying their files, I mean, the rat's nest in SDNY's got to be cleaned up.
Steve, here's the scuttlebutt, right? And it does need to be cleaned. The scuttlebutt is that they think what they're going to get back is they're going to say, well, wait a minute, Ghislaine Maxwell, right, who was the accomplice, she was Lady Epstein. They're going to say, oh, her appeal is still in process, something you know about. And so if her appeal's in process, then we can't release this because it's in process.
Well, then there's a color guard right there taking position. This means that maybe Zelensky's going to be here a little early.
Well, and this is what happened yesterday. So yesterday we walk out the portico door. We're just walking to the EEOB, which you see behind there, the Eisenhower building. We did, and then the entire media is there waiting for Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Do you think you were set up? Is that what you're implying?
I think that
you got the War Posse.
I think there's no conspiracies, but there are no coincidences.
But why would they do that when they didn't give you any information? That would be the exact opposite of what they would want to do, wouldn't they?
Look, here's my position, right? My position is,
I mean, no offense, we had the best people in our influence.
We're going to put it out.
Cerno, you had everybody. It's a who's who of influencers.
And I'm going to keep asking them for more information.
Okay.
And we're going to keep going back and we're going to press them and say, look, I'm in communication, by the way, with the task force.
I don't think asking is going to do it. I think you want the information of the demanded.
We're in communication with Anna Paulina Luna. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, as everyone knows, is very hot on this, and she's going to be going over. And she said, you know what? We've dealt with DOJ not giving us.
Guys, I want to keep. Okay, I'm a direct now. I'm going to go back to my direct days. I want the shot. I want that beautiful shot in front of the yes. I've seen enough of Jack, and the audience knows. The audience knows how beautiful I am. Right? They don't need to see it on right there. Now, this is the working side of the West Wing. This is where these bilats, when you're not on a state visit, when you're here for a working visit, this is where you come. And the color guard is put out there as an honor. It's a very short, when he goes inside, the president normally comes out to meet people. He didn't come out the first time with Macron the other day. The reason was Macron was coming early, kind of unofficially, to join President Trump in the Oval Office for the G7 conference call. And it was a video call, so they wanted to have it secure, and Macron wanted to be with the president. Macron then left and came back and got this. So this is a working visit to the White House
Actually got to run into Dr. Navarro yesterday a little bit there as he was coming out with his better half.
Okay, so people should understand, right to the left, see the portico, that is the West Wing. Now, the West Wing is 1 or 2 stories right there. These offices are very crammed.
Well, you're actually looking at the second story because of the way the hill sits. So there's a lower level as well.
Well, and there's also underneath that's the National Security Council, the military. As I say, the West Wing is a military command post with a very old small office building. Now, where Dr. Navarro and most of the people you see is the executive office building is in the background. That is the old State Department and War Department. It's a massive, massive building. 1,000 people or more.
Well, people don't realize that the West Wing actually isn't that big.
Tiny, very tiny.
Yeah,
have the Oval Office. The East Wing, actually, where the First Lady's office is, in the East Ballroom.
More space.
That's where the press conference takes. So they take place in the East Room. They'll be there today. So a massive breaking news. So the bottom line of this is Cash has got it at the FBI. There's some controversy about Southern District, but people are working on this. You guys were there for a briefing with all the cabinet officials, JD, Caroline Leavitt. This Bondi popped in, gave you guys the binders, and you went outside, and it turned out to be the Prime Minister of England was there, and he had a couple of hundred press guys, and you guys gave an impromptu press conference, but didn't have a lot of receipts, right?
Well, that was the thing, right? You know, they hand you this thing. They say, hey, walk out this door. You walk out. Oh, there's the cameras everywhere.
Did they tell you that this is like phase 1, that this is not everything?
That's right.
Presented to you?
The way it was presented was this is phase 1, and there's going to be more. They also gave us copies of the letter.
Okay, look, nobody's happy on this. I know that some people are outraged. Beautiful camera shot right there. You don't have to do a split screen. Give me a whole screen. I want the whole screen. I got enough of Jack Posobiec. I got to look at him right here next to me. And the audience remembers what my beautiful visage is. Okay, let's go. We got serious business on the cartel war. Zelensky today is to stop the Ukraine war. I think we can be very safe that President Trump, that's a condition precedent. You got to lay down your guns. The war that President Trump is really focused on is the cartel war. Let's go to Todd Bensman. I've also got Ben Berquam. Oscar Blue Ramirez is in Mexico in Tijuana. We're going to go to all that. Bensman, we got about a minute here to tee this up. How big a deal was this extradition of these 28 cartel leaders, sir, by President Trump and the Trump administration with the cooperation of the Mexican government, sir?
This is hugely meaningful and impactful. They have convinced the Mexican government to expel and extradite 29 founding fathers of the Mexican cartels, 6 of them which have been designated terrorist organizations recently. Claudia Sheinbaum has just bought herself another couple months of a reprieve from Donald Trump's threat of trade tariffs. That's what this is all about. So these are big scalps that Sheinbaum has brought to Donald Trump. This is a major victory. It's a first blow to the cartels of many more to come. There's a lot of work to be done here. These 29 guys are mass murderers. They'll be brought here with to refill the death row, federal death row that Joe Biden cleared out on his last days in office. Now we've got some new
sounds good to me.
Inmates.
Yeah. Todd, hang on for 1 second. We're going to take a short break. We got Ben Berquam. We got Oscar Blue Ramirez. We got the team that has fought for this for years. Todd Bensman, being brilliant, did not bury the lead. President Trump and tariffs. I don't think on the 4th that 25% tariffs across the board are going to go on to Mexico. And the reason is they're starting to wake up and focus on the cartel war. Birchgold.com. End of the dollar empire, particularly modern monetary theory. The 6th free installment. Get it today. Short break. Post those with me at Patriot Mobile.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, right there you see that's a beautiful structure of the White House. That's the West Wing. We're expecting President Zelensky of Ukraine. It's a huge day for peace and prosperity. No one's crazy about this deal, but we understand President Trump's trying to do. He's trying to recoup money and he's adamant there was $350 billion. Zelensky's coming. That's the color guard. This is a working visit, just like Prime Minister Starmer yesterday, Macron, President of France. These are working visits, a bilat, what it's called. Brian Glenn is now left. Brian is getting set up and getting in. They probably tee him up in the Roosevelt Room, which is right across the hall from the Oval. Brian Glenn, our own Brian Glenn, will be there. There'll be a camera crew, etc. And this goes back, Jack, to this thing of President Trump and Caroline Leavitt and Susie Wiles doing something that needed to be done. They've taken control of the White House pool. So now you just don't have the New York Times and MSNBC and all these people that are sitting there just putting their framing on it, which is always negative, particularly about President Trump. You now have Newsmax, you have Real America's Voice, you have the podcasters, etc.
Well, Steve, it's not just about the framing, but it's also about the fact that, and there are anonymous media sources going around all over the last couple of weeks. Look, you're seeing the purges going on at NBC and MSNBC, massive restructuring, and the executives are saying, look, half of the people in this country don't believe anything that we're saying. Yeah. Any of this stuff that we're writing, any of this stuff that we're putting out, we have no stroke with 50% of the country. And if we don't have that and we can't even motivate more people to vote, then what are we doing it for? What are we doing this for? And so what Caroline Leavitt is doing, absolute genius, and then President Trump as well, is saying, look, we're going through new media to find where the people are.
And we can tell you, and we've done changes to programming. We do a lot more live coverage from the White House because I tell people, you're seeing history being made. There are decades in which nothing happens. There are weeks in which decades happen. This week, think about it. And I don't think this has ever happened in White House history. You've had the President of France, the Prime Minister of the UK, two of our two oldest allies. There's some Marines coming outside. We're pulling in right now. So this is getting closer. I think he's going to be there at 11 or close to 11. We'll be covering it live. Great shots. I want to hold that shot. I'm going to bring some guests. So President Trump is here today to stop the fighting in Ukraine. And he's doing it with this first is a minerals deal. It's not perfect, but it's a condition precedent to get President Trump to what he really wants to do is a rapprochement with Russia and to make sure that we can lay the guns down in Western Europe and stop, spending $1 trillion a year on defense and focus on the Chinese Communist Party, the railhead of all the problems.
What's being done is he's taking the international structure of globalism, which is based around this American hegemonic state that existed sort of after the end of World War II, because
the post-war international rules-based order,
which was originally set up to contain communism, to contain the Soviet Union. That's why you see Afghanistan. That's why you saw Vietnam. That's why you saw the rest of it. But then what happened in 1991, 1992, after the Soviet Union fell,
don't bury the lead. In 72, 73, it was Kissinger and Nixon going to see Mao Zedong to say, if we want to take, now they were more détente, but they said, if we want to actually have a shot at containing the Soviet Union and stopping this, we have to get China on our side.
They exacerbate what was called at the time the Sino-Soviet split.
And then President Reagan came in and said, hey, look, I saw what Nixon did, but Nixon wanted détente with these guys. I can take down the evil empire. And it took essentially from 1981 to 1989, it took about 8 or 9 years. President Reagan had left office, but the evil empire collapsed, the Berlin Wall. And the central part of that was getting the Chinese on our side. This is totally reversed. This was President Trump's grand strategy.
The goal is a new Sino-Soviet split, but in the other direction.
In the other direction. And this is what he wanted to accomplish in the first term, and it was prevent it. Now, when you talk about America first, President Trump is saying, hey, look, we got to secure the homeland. He's not really interested in the war in Ukraine. He wants the guns to be put down so we can get peace and prosperity and do this geostrategic realignment. What he wants to focus on, just like, folks, don't forget, ISIS. When President Trump came in the first time, as you remember, Obama told us it was a generational problem. The Islamic State in Iraq and Syria had more control of territory and real estate than the size of Iraq or the size of Syria.
Well, and who was the general that he went and got briefed on that was Raising Cane.
Raising Cane. That's why Raising Cane's chairman of the Joint Chiefs. President Trump, and this is what Mattis did well. President Trump said, I want to take down ISIS. And I think it was in the first 5 or 6 months, ISIS was
Steve,
gone.
Let me, I'll actually take one down a notch from Mattis on that. What they did was they reinstated, and by the way, this just happened again. What they did is they restructured what's called the kill chain.
Yes.
So the kill chain is when we find, fixed, and evaluated. So the F3EA cycle is you found the terrorist leader, you found the high value target, you can go strike on him. The way Obama had it written in the early fight, and Biden did the same thing.
And led to Soleimani's.
It went all the way up, all the way up to the White House. Is that almost Obama or one of his guys, Ben Rhodes, had to sign off on it.
Now,
Trump, they deregulated that, delegated it down.
Said let the war fighters fight the war.
06 level.
Yeah,
level.
Let the war fighters fight the war. Now, why is that relevant? Because President Trump, one of the first things he did was designate a bunch of these Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. That means you can go to the next level.
Find, fix, finish.
The first step he does is like, I need a forcing function. Forcing function is going to be 25% across the board tariffs unless you step up, start stopping fentanyl, help us take these cartels. Todd Bensman. Last night, we saw the fruits of President Trump's, and this is my point. The guy's been in office 35 days. We've accomplished more in taking down the Mexican drug cartels than in the previous 25 or 30 years. I mean, this is true action. 29 founding fathers of the cartels, these different, the Sinaloa and all these others, you can tell us, have literally been coughed up by Mexico. That has had them for years, been coughed up, and now they're becoming in U.S. custody. Todd Bensman. How big a deal is this as the predicate for the kinetic part, which is going to take down and eradicate these drug cartels, sir?
This is a huge offering by the Sheinbaum administration. And just for context, a lot of these guys have been in under extradition requests by the U.S. by many U.S. governments for decades. And their power from their luxury prison cells. These are guys who are in quote unquote prison, but it's not real prison. And they're still running their operations from there through brute force. And they've managed to get successive Mexican regimes to block U.S. extradition for decades. Now, all of a sudden, they're all on military flights being flown into 8 different U.S. cities to face justice. And I mean, it's going to be death penalty justice for some of these guys because they killed DEA agents. One of them killed a deputy sheriff in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, these guys are in the United States. I don't think anybody disputes that anymore. I mean, no normal person disputes that. So this is a first delivery on a requirement by Donald Trump. We're going to see a lot more, and we're going to probably see some fighting down there too.
So, Todd, hang on for a second. Let's go to Ben Bergquam. I want to keep this shot or do the preview shot. I'd love. Stay on the White House. Ben Bergquam joins us. Ben Bergquam joins us from his home. Ben, you've done this. Oscar, we're going to go to Mexico in a second. How big a deal, brother, is this?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. A couple things, not burying the lead. First off, it's just the beginning. This starts the unraveling. It's also going to start the major violence, and Oscar's going to talk a little bit more about that, what they're already seeing down there. But it's two things. As you mentioned, it's the threat of tariffs, but it's also the strength of President Trump designating these organizations terrorist organizations and giving Mexico the backup to be able to do this. This is extremely dangerous for the government in Mexico, the officials in Mexico. Not surprisingly, a lot of these guys were in America yesterday, I think, kind of on purpose, so they didn't get whacked when this all happened. Some of the guys from the Mexican delegation were actually on the U.S. side. But the other side of this is...
Hold it. Ben, hang on for a second. Ben, hang on for a second. I want to reiterate to the audience that this is a massive blow to the cartels. That's why it's so dangerous. The cartels, and Oscar's going to tell us what's happening in Mexico right now. But for the Sheinbaum government, and she's a lefty, right? But for her, and she was forced to do this because 25% tariffs.
That's right.
It's over in Mexico. Her government's over. The country's over.
That's right.
This is Trump. This is called a forcing function. Tell us why it's dangerous for her personally in her government, sir.
Because the cartels control every level of government. They control the DAs, they control the judges, they control the municipal governments, they control the military, they control the police, they control just about everything depending on which district you're in, whether you're in the Gulf or the CJNG or the Jalisco New Generation or the Michoacan or all of these guys, the Noreste, all of them control their little factions of the country. They really control Mexico. So for the government to come out and say, we're going to side with America, this really took, again, the threat of tariffs, that's one big part of it, but it also took the backing of the U.S. military being able to say, we can come in and take you guys out at any moment. And really, the bigger part to this, Steve, as you said, this was Joe Biden for 4 years sending our tax dollars, our money over to foreign wars and allowing our country to be invaded. This is the new Bukele mantra where we put the victims first over the criminals. It's never been done before. Yeah. In particular, you can see how big a deal it is by the attorneys in Mexico, their reaction to this. They are freaking out, the defense attorneys.
Yeah. Hang on for 1 second. You see the split screen right there. You see the color guard getting ready. Zelensky's en route. We understand he's going to be at 11 o'clock Eastern time. He'll be arriving. Big day for President Trump. There'll be he'll go in for a short bilat. Then there'll be a press avail. Our own Brian Glenn will be in there. Right there, there's a color guard. Then I think they'll have a working lunch, and I think at 1 o'clock they're going to have a press conference in the East Room. We will also be there. Real quickly before the intelligence planes are flying around, targeting. The targeting's been done by the intelligence community, and kind of they haven't been shy about sending the signal to Mexico that we're preparing for something.
Well, Steve, understand, and people have to understand as well, that these aren't just imagery flights. These are flights that are packed with the entire suite of surveillance and ISR technology that the United States intelligence community has. We're talking about signal suckers. They're even signal sniffers. They're pulling up anything that they have down there. Because, by the way, number one, it's cell phones. Tracking up all the cell phones, and then you have to begin the work of the needles in the haystack. So mapping out the networks. Do these guys use SIM swapping like the Taliban or ISIS used to do? Do they practice ComSec? Who are the leaders? What are the nodes? You got to build out the network.
I've got about a minute before we go to break. Let me get Oscar Blue Ramirez. And Oscar, you're down in Mexico, sir. You saw this historic day. You've worked on this for years to get here. But how dangerous is it, sir?
It's beginning to be really dangerous, sir. This is not a huge blow to the Mexican cartels. It's a huge blow to the other cartels. That is the corrupt politicians in Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum just gave up all of these big names, and the biggest name is Rafael El Caro Quintero, who has been, being looked and being investigated by the American government. But the other thing is that is not being mentioned. It is the biggest kingpin that is in Mayo Zambada that is arrested in the American territory, and it is putting pressure on the corrupt politicians in Mexico on Claudia Sheinbaum. This is why it's always. All of this, it is happening. Claudia Sheinbaum, it is being just basically en masse, also by the right-wing political party in Mexico that is on the rise right now, pressuring the Mexican president to basically stop the drug cartels, to basically stop the wars over here, and to ultimately put pressure on her to name them as cartel terrorists that she doesn't want to. She's willing to change the Constitution just to protect the cartels to not be named as terrorists, and this is all just because of the 25% tariff. So it's a big blow to the Mexican cartels, but it's a bigger blow to the corrupt politicians and the Mexican government, and particularly to them, sir.
Wow. Okay, hang on for 1 second. Burkholm's going to stick with us. Oscar Blue down in Mexico. I'm here live with Jack Posobiec at the Patriot Mobile headquarters. We need you to the ramparts. Not this week, but next week. Big stories in the Hill about guess what? The CR, and they want the Doge numbers in there, as this audience has been fighting for. Short commercial break. We're going to return to the White House in a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Got Shanghai.
Okay. I want to show you, and particularly the folks that are very concerned about yesterday. We got the great Real America Voice camera right there. If we can do some direction, I want to do a slow pan. Now, what you're seeing back there is the residence part of the White House. That's the color guard. They're going to march in. Let's pan around.
That's the mansion.
Now, the mansion. Yeah. We call it, by the way, you call it the residence when you're inside baseball. Right there. Okay, stop right there. That colonnade is on the other side. The other side of that is the colonnade in the. That's okay. Let's. Once you go, you go. Okay, stop right there. Right there. That's the press pool. That's what you walk. By the thing we just went past, on the other side is the colonnade you always see coming from the residence and the president walking to the West Wing. And that's the Rose Gardens on the other side.
On the flip side of it.
On the flip side.
Yeah.
Right there, look at that press mob. There's got to be, 200 or 300?
And this is beyond just the press pool.
Yes.
So this is anyone who's got a press pass for the White House, a daily pass today.
But the president,
the hard passes, they're all there.
But President Trump, understanding mass communications, has opened that up, which I think is good. There's more foreign press. There's more.
I hear they even let the War Room have a correspondent.
We have Real America's Voice. We have 3 now. We have Amanda Head,
right,
with John Solomon. You got Natalie Winters with War Room, and you have Brian Glenn.
I should send Kevin. I got to send Kevin down there for Human Events.
We're going to send Human Events.
All right.
I think there are background checks that have to come.
Oh yeah, Kev. Sorry, there's background checks.
Minimum security. Another executive order, folks, every day. So yesterday, let me finish this. Yesterday, you guys walked out, and that's what they had for the British Prime Minister.
That's right.
You guys are sitting there with a binder that really is something that
was handed
to you. Warren Posse's already seen, right?
Right. That the Posse's seen, that people looked through this, and we didn't even have time to take a couple, 3 minutes to just look through it yet, because they hand us this thing and say, okay, we're going to the next room.
Yep.
We walk out. I didn't know why we're walking this way. Why didn't we go the other way? But we walk out, and then boom, everyone's waiting, because yesterday was Keir Starmer for the British Prime Minister, so all the cameras are there. Okay. And look, when DC Drano sees a camera,
hold it, don't go to DC Drano. Jack Posobiec sees
the most dangerous. Not in the picture.
The most dangerous territory in DC is between a microphone, camera, and Jack Posobiec.
Look, by myself, let's just say.
Okay.
Hey, I learned from the best.
A major executive order has just been signed. Jack Posobiec, and I want to keep on that shot. Major executive order has been signed. What is it, sir?
President Trump has signed an executive order that harkens back to Teddy Roosevelt and his discussion of hyphenated Americans, if you're familiar with that one, Steve. President Trump's EO is declaring that English is the official language of the United States. That is, and by the way, that's going to have a ripple effect around the country, because that means government documents must be in English. Look, it's a absolute,
and voting has to be in English.
Voting, that's going to be tricky.
In federal elections, at least.
Voting is going to be tricky because, as we know, voting is run by the states, but had a discussion
you have federal elections,
on background with some very high-level senior officials yesterday at the White House, specifically on Scott Presler was there yesterday, and that was everyone knows, Scott Presler brought it up again and again, election integrity.
Yeah.
And so when we pass the election integrity legislation, this should be front and center, that ballots should be printed in English.
The press is right there. Now, right to the right of that is where if we can pan around, you can see the portico of the working side of the West Wing, where they bring dignitaries in. Okay, that shot's fine. Zelensky's going to be here, I think, at 11 o'clock, so it'll be about 5 or 6 minutes. He will arrive. You'll see the color guard, I think, get in place right before he arrives, so we'll be waiting for that.
Do you know the history of Pebble Beach a little bit?
No, give it to me.
So Pebble Beach, I looked this up the other day. I was digging up something.
Pebble Beach not being the golf links in Monterey that the U.S.
Pebble
Open
Beach of the White House.
Pebble Beach of the White House
grounds.
Yes,
is an area, and this is where the camera that you're looking through right now is currently situated. The one that's showing the press pool. So it's the area with all the tents, all the green tents that line up, and that's where members of the media can do their hits. That's where Brian Glenn does his hit. I did an interview with Alina Habba there yesterday. She came out as the counselor to the White House, to the president, and then it's where all the cameras are. But the history is, and the reason they call it Pebble Beach is because it's just rocks and strewn, and it's
like
all
a little gravel walkway.
It's like a gravel walkway because you don't need to see it. Sean Spicer did some videos there, did like an Easter thing, but The history of it is that it actually, you know what the actual first thing where they started setting up their 24/7 was? Lewinsky.
Oh,
It was the end of the 90s because they were that when the Zelensky scam. Because remember, this was the era of TV. It was the OJ.
Well, it was also Drudge Broken,
CNN,
the beginning of social media.
But Steve, remember, this is when media shifted from we're reporting stories to we're going live.
Yeah.
So we're giving you the car chase, and the car chase in this case was the president,
the white Bronco,
and Lewinsky.
The white Bronco was the blue dress.
Exactly.
Right?
The white Bronco was the blue dress.
If it doesn't fit, let's not go there.
So that
Lewinsky came out yesterday. Lewinsky came out a couple of days ago and said Bill Clinton should have resigned, which I think most people think. Okay, I want to keep this shot, but I want to go to Oscar Blue Ramirez. Oscar, if you were in the Oval today, what question would you ask President Trump? Would you put to President Trump about what you've seen overnight with the cartels, the 29 being extradited here to the United States, in the future kinetic war that's coming against the terrorist organizations, the Mexican drug cartels, sir?
Well, I think the number one question that I will ask is why in Mayo Zambada it is not one of the first people that should be investigating and should be asked about the bank accounts of these dirty politicians in Mexico. Can we have the possibility of asking him and investigating him? This Mayo Zambada is the kingpin. This is the guy that has Claudia Sheinbaum extremely nervous right now. Is the guy that knows the whereabouts, is the guy that knows which political campaign has been funded. If the past president of Mexico, this goes way deeper, Steve. If the past president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, his political campaign, they're speculating that Mayo Zambada was the number one that it was, the number one funder, the number one that it was funding this political campaign. I think that the most important question that goes extremely deep to this is to find the root of the problem of all these dirty politicians and to go directly to Mayo Zambada, that is the kingpin of drug lords that basically controls and has the level of violence in Culiacán, the level of violence in the central parts of Mexico, the extreme level of violence and insecurities and the cartel attacks that are occurring right now in Tijuana. Just this past week, Steve, 2 human heads that were found, and one in a really Transit Boulevard. The other one was found in the east side of Tijuana. So violence is escalating. I think that one of the questions will be that, Steve, directly to know why the bank accounts and all these dirty politicians have not been investigated by this, this particular kingpin speaking about it.
A brilliant analysis. I think that's going to be next level, but I 100% agree with you. Right before you stick there, but you just said something I know the audience is very interested in. You said the politicians are more worried today. The politicians are more worried today than actually the cartels. Why is that?
The left-wing political party is being exposed, and the right, and this is what the other thing that President Trump did, and it's just magical for us Mexicans over here living. The right-wing political party and the conservatives are rising now, and they're fighting the left-wing political party because Donald Trump has put pressure in exposing the left-wing political party in Mexico. Lili Tellez is one of the senators in Mexico that has been speaking at the Senate and exposing their names and saying their names in front of the cameras and saying, you are the narco political party that is protecting these cartels, and why you're stopping them from not naming them terrorists. This is huge. This is big. And it's as the rising of the right-wing political party. This is what Donald Trump just has done, just by pressuring the Mexican government.
We have done more. We have done more to take the war and to actually get serious about taking down the Mexican cartels in the 5 weeks that President Trump has been back in office than occurred in 30 or 40 years under other people.
Now, Oscar, when you talk about those politicians that are getting cartel money, that would never happen north of the border, right? That would never happen, or cartel money was going north of the border. Would it, Oscar?
Well, it's a lot of them. It's a lot of investigations, and the Mexican government is really embedded with the cartels, and a lot of these dirty politicians. You can actually understand that a lot of them, they're on the other side of the border.
But let's be blunt. I mean, this is what today's about with Zelensky. Zelensky's saying, and Dana Carvey and those guys were actually were making, did a TikTok laughing about this yesterday, about how serious it was. Zelensky's coming into the White House today. He said, hey, look, Trump says $350 billion. I can tell you the $179 billion was allocated, but I only got like $88 billion. Right? Mm-hmm. There's massive, and MTG will tell you she's got no traction on really getting an audit. Now, I understand there are inspector generals that have gone under Keith Kellogg and others that are in Ukraine. What I'm told is that people are there. But the problem in Mexico is the exact same problem.
Those prosecutor generals in Ukraine don't exactly have a great track record.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to go back
My
to
point is that the connective tissue here is that American money, you've got bad guys throughout
Steve,
the world.
Look at the model. Look at the model of this. It's oligarchs and people. So the oligarchs, when you talk about cartel leader, that's an oligarch. So an oligarch there controls the violence, controls the weapons, also controls the politics. Yep. And it is on both sides of the border, obviously. Ukraine, same deal. You've got oligarchs, and Russia's got oligarchs, okay? This is what we're looking at. And so the system is the U.S. funding those oligarchs or not?
This is, and we happen to be, by divine providence in Texas today. We're at the Patriot Mobile headquarters. Glenn Sturry, the team. We're giving a speech. I'm giving a speech tonight. Poso's there. Amanda Milius, a whole crew of kind of MAGA folks down there to talk to these great patriots in Texas. But Taylor Marshall's going to be there. You see President Trump taking, and the people in Texas will tell you, the drug cartels, what it's done to Rio Grande Valley, what it's done to South Texas. When you just talked to, okay, here we go right here.
Is this it?
Camera, I want to follow, that's the color guard. Let's follow that around. Zelensky must be en route, coming onto the, getting close to coming onto the White House compound. We're going to follow that. That's U.S. Army out in front. I think the old guard, right? Of course, it's a mix of Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines. All of it, Air Force.
No Space Force
there.
yet. I'm waiting for the Space Force colors to get out there.
Let's cut to that other shot, the side shot. There we go. We'll get it up in a second. There we go. Okay, the color guard will be coming out in a moment.
Hear them.
See them.
They're striking.
That's right. Let's just hold it right there. Okay. Hold that shot. So Zelensky's about to show up.
This is one of the momentous days. Keep in mind, Steve, we just passed the 3-year anniversary of the start of the war. It was this week.
Yep. Here we are right here. Beautiful shot. For our audience that get it on podcast, you must go to the site and get all the video. We do this every day, put it out. The videos are just spectacular. Before Zelensky shows up, the intelligence platforms are there to get actual almost fire control, start to get fire control solutions. I mean, they're getting general information now, but they're letting the cartels know that we're coming in and we're going to come in hot.
Well, it all depends, right? So it depends on which types of operations the president wants to employ, and obviously with Secretary Hegg.
Well, he did a decapitation move tonight, yesterday.
So and so what I'm talking about.
But he wants to do a physical decapitation.
That is more. Those are the more the decapitation strikes or decapitation roll-ups. That's a special operations move. And by the way, I know the Mexicans are getting credit on this, but it wouldn't surprise me if some of this intel or some of the signal networking link analysis that was done was maybe handed over to the Mexican military by some friends north of the border.
And now, some of that's going to leak out.
You wouldn't necessarily disclose that, but that is how these types of operations tend to work. So the flights that you saw last week and the last couple of weeks, and it was Todd Bensman who came here on the War Room and said kinetic action is coming.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Ben Bergquam, how big is this going to be for folks? You've covered the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas. Oscar just said, I mean, there's going to be violence everywhere, but this is what you need to kind of purify this. You got to do this, right? How big a deal is it going to be for the people that you've spent the last 3 or 4 years talking to, it looks like every other week, sir?
Well, it's the first step. And as Oscar said, this is the question about El Mayo and the rest of these guys is where does the money go? And we've got to dig in on that. So President Trump has an opportunity now to go after not just the Mexican politicians that are bought off by the cartels, but the U.S. politicians that are as well as the NGOs. And so for me, this is a great first step, but it's only the first step. What comes after this is really the most important part. Destroying the financial networks, uncovering all of the people in all of the lines from local government officials to the DAs to the NGOs that are all involved with this, that were directly aiding and abetting the real war that was going on the last 4 years that we were allowing in the United States, the war on our southern border. So to me, it's huge for the Rio Grande Valley, but it's just the first step.
Okay, before I lose, Zelensky's going to show up in a minute. Todd Bensman, before we bounce, I want your summary. Ben Bergquam just said, first step of a larger war. Oscar Bluger, the political class in Mexico, the financiers, the MBAs that are the front guys here, the bankers. Where do we go from here, sir?
call that the company. The company. Remember that's what Oscar's talking about, the corrupt Mexican officials in government, active in government. And these are the people that really run the cartels and keep things working, because they have levers on the Mexican military, on the financial institutions, banking. These are the dudes in suits. They're not carrying guns. They're all over Mexican government, and that's the target. And remember, the CIA is now moving from Ukraine and the Middle East into Mexico. Massive realignment of CIA to do operations. And I would hope.
Hang on. Repeat that, because that's the connective tissue between last night and today. Repeat that for the audience.
CIA is moving into Mexico. They're trebling down from places like Ukraine and the Middle East to do narco warfare, counter narcotics operations in Mexico. And the company is got to be the target. That has got to be the target, because those people are not so easily replaced as just hitting, gunmen and sicarios and, local capos. It's got to be the company. That means the Mexican government. So I'm hoping that the setting of the table that we're seeing right now is going to address what Oscar is talking about totally accurately, by the way.
I want the audience to understand this before you leave. Is last night what we saw was capos. If you remember the mob movies and you're understanding the Sicilian mafia and the mafia in the United States, the capo regimes. Last night was capos. What you're saying, and Oscar's saying, hey, that's great, right? But that's at one level. The deeper level is the political class in Mexico, the guys that back them, the money, the bankers, the company. Is this what I'm hearing?
That's right. Remember, there was a ranking Mexican official busted in California not very long ago. And what did the Mexicans do? They demanded that the United States drop the charges. Biden dropped the charges and returned the guy. High-ranking Mexican. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Those people are not replaceable.
Trump ain't returning guys.
No.
Bensman, we're going to let you bounce because Zelensky's going to show up. Hang on a second.
One piece of this I want to throw out on the financial side that people don't always realize, that it's actually the Financial Crime Center under the Secretary of the Treasury that rolls up these financial networks. So you're looking at an interagency working group across the interagency. You've got CIA, the special activities. You've got clandestine officers, but then you've also got the Treasury guys, because that's who goes after the money.
Scott Bessent, the reason you went with Bessent, not with Hegseth, the reason Bessent went to cut the deal is they want extreme monitoring. Whatever this deal comes to be, they want Treasury to be monitoring.
50% of Treasury's portfolio is national security. People don't realize that.
People don't realize that. Like, people don't realize that the State Department's and everything. Bensman, we're going to let you go. There's going to be so much more on this. Hopefully, we track you down tomorrow. What is your social media, Todd, that people can follow you while we still can, sir?
Right, Bensman Todd on X, and I'm on Getter. Truth Social, and I'll see you tonight. I'm going to drive in for this. I wouldn't miss this MAGA gala for anything. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'll see you.
Todd Bensman. We're making an announcement. Get a ticket now. Todd Bensman. We're going to get you up on stage, Bensman. You're a hero to these people. We'll see you, Todd, tonight then. Thank you for doing that. What a beautiful shot right there. Now, that is actually, let's hold that shot.
I got to see this in person yesterday.
That is actually where, coming onto the compound.
So you're looking at Pebble Beach a little bit there at the edge.
But this is where the actual Zelensky
you're looking at Lafayette Park.
Yes.
Lafayette, that's the fence at the very edge of it.
Yes.
And this is right. I was standing here yesterday when we did the interview.
Okay.
And then that's Lafayette Park, where General Lafayette is just across the way.
Right. It's actually, I think it's General Andrew Jackson's the statue. I think the statue, it's Lafayette Park. But right to the left is the executive office building. Right outside the gate to the left is Blair House.
I think you're right on that, actually.
Now, Blair House, I believe Zelensky may have stayed at Blair House.
Did he say he didn't stay at Blair House?
Otherwise, he stayed at the Ukrainian embassy. And the Ukrainian embassy is in Georgetown. It's not really that high security. It's right there.
It's right on the street.
It's right on the street. So I think a guy like Zelensky.
Well, Blair House is where you would stay as a visiting dignitary when you come in traditionally. So if Zelensky did stay at Blair House, that would be in tradition. So that's giving. And again, this is why he didn't sign the deal with Bessent when we were there. It was the whole idea is he wants the pomp and circumstance. He wants the state visit. He wants the ability to be able to go back to his people, go back to Ukraine and say that this was a huge win for us. This was a win for Ukraine. They've got to be able to sell it.
Ben Bergquam, we're going to let you bounce. Closing thoughts on what a huge day. It all ties together. President Trump trying to get peace in Ukraine so he can focus on the war that he wants to win quickly, which is against the Mexican drug cartels. Sir.
Well, look, Oscar's living in the thick of it down in Mexico. Americans are just starting to experience what the violence is like when you have a corrupt government, and we have an opportunity to end that now. And again, I go back to Bukele's model where you put the rights of the innocent above the rights of the criminals, and that's what we're starting to see, the power of President Trump unleashing around the world, and it's a great day for America. But again, it's just the beginning, so people need to stay engaged. This fight's just getting started. It's going to be ugly in Mexico. It may get ugly in America in some places as well, so we got to be ready. But thank God for President Trump.
Ben Bergquam and Oscar Blue Ramirez are about to turn into war. They've kind of been war correspondents the last couple of years on this invasion. They're about to be in the kinetic part. Ben, social media, all your great content on the border, where do people get it?
New episodes of Law and Border will be coming out soon, only on Real America's Voice News. You can watch all 28 episodes of the last 4 seasons if you go to americasvoice.news. All social media at Real America's Voice, and then my personal social media at Ben Bergquam, Substack, Frontline America, and then my website, frontlineamerica.com.
Oscar Blue, we got to bounce. I think Zelensky's coming over. I think something's coming up. What do you got, sir?
Well, sir, the only thing that I can say is that, President Trump just brought hope to all the Mexican people. We can also think that possibly we can make Mexico great, exposing the corrupt politicians and exposing the cartels. And now we can have hope for our children to basically see Mexico possibly be clean and, and have a bright future for our country. So this is all because of President Trump. It's not because of the Mexican politicians. It's not because of the Mexican president. If it wasn't for the threat of a tariff, this wouldn't be unleashed and this wouldn't be unmasked. So that was particularly what I will say, sir.
Social media, Oscar, where do people follow you?
Oscar Blue Ramirez, sir. Thank you for the invitation. First and foremost, Oscar Blue Ramirez and all social media, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Of course, Real America's Voice News.
You be safe, sir. We'll come back to you hopefully tomorrow. Major news. President Trump, and Oscar just said it right there. If it wasn't for President Trump, and this is 35 days into this, there are decades in which nothing happens, and there are weeks in which decades happen. This is one of them. You've got an update on Blair House, do you not, Jack Posobiec?
Yeah, so I hadn't heard that Zelensky was going to be staying in Blair House, and I hadn't tracked it down, but I didn't see any preparations at Blair House yesterday for him to stay there. Did track it down, so Keir Starmer stayed there. Macron stayed there. But Zelensky, no Blair House. He was staying at a hotel.
Wow.
Not sure yet if it was the Waldorf.
Wow. Waldorf or the Hay Adams.
Or probably the Hay Adams, if I had to guess.
This is big because it is an honor to stay at Blair House. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Blair House, Montgomery Blair was, in the Blair family, very prominent, particularly in Maryland. And I think he was the first Secretary of War under Abraham Lincoln. I believe Blair House, at least in the origin story, I think Blair House is where Robert E. Lee, where Montgomery Blair, one of the Blairs, offered Robert E. Lee the command of the Union Army.
Well, that's in the opening scene of the film.
The film, yes, and I think it's Blair House because I think when you go into Blair House, they have a little room off to the side where it was actually done. So Blair House, if you look right there, Blair House, right to your left, it is a great honor for dignitaries to be the President of the United States controls it. So Macron, and by the way, they jump at the shot. They all have beautiful embassies here, so they jump at the shot. Their Blair House are right across the street. Also, you should understand.
Truman lived there for a couple of years.
Well, Truman, when they were redoing this, in fact, the Puerto Rican separatists,
right.
This is where they try to have an assassination attempt of President Truman. You also should understand is that when you win the presidency, you stay at Blair House. If you want to come a couple of days, or Trump comes in the night before. Some people come in a couple of days before, right?
Right.
President Trump comes in the night before. In fact, In 17, President Trump on the night of we practiced the American Carnage speech in that beautiful library for a couple of like an hour or so. So President Trump got the rhythm of it down.
Was he staying there in 17, or did he stay at the hotel?
No, he stayed at the night before. He only came in, I think, one day before. I think he stayed maybe 2 days. We stayed at everyone stayed at the Blair House.
Okay, so then he stayed that time, but was it this time he didn't stay there?
I don't know, but he doesn't own the hotel anymore.
No, I think he stayed at the golf course.
Okay,
the one in Virginia, the National.
His accommodations are always better, right? Okay, we're seeing right here Zelensky. It's a historic day. President Trump has worked really to bring peace to the world. What he wants everybody to do is put their guns down. Even the Mexican cartels, they put their guns down and weapons down, just surrendered.
Sure.
Right? President Trump would like to do it non-kinetically, but if you got to do it kinetically, he'll do that. So right now, Zelensky's going to show up. There is going to be, I think, a signing of this framework, this term sheet that lays out the deal. That will be in the East Room. You don't think they'll do that in the Oval? You think they'll do it in the East Room before the bigger press conference?
I think you do the meeting, come out, do the signing, and then do the press conference.
I think it's safe to say, and we're not being critical, that President Trump is not a fan of Zelensky. He said some very nice things about him yesterday.
Well,
right?
You know what it was? This is what President Trump does. So having been a very small part of, fly on the wall on this, this deal was supposed to be signed several weeks ago and was supposed to be in the works. So the term sheet goes over with Bessent, and then Bessent doesn't get the reception that he thinks he's going to get on the trip that we're there. And Ambassador Brink is there in Kiev, in Zelensky's presidential palace.
Don't pull your punches. I mean, Zelensky, you were there. You were invited. I thought it was great. The press went crazy. You went over with Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of Treasury. Zelensky was screaming at Scott Bessent. He didn't treat him with no respect. I mean, Scott stood his ground. Right, all these things in the Financial Times that he was shaking
his ground, and they said and Daily Mail and Financial Times, he's shaking his hands. He wasn't shaking his hand. Scott Bessent is not exactly a nervous Nelly. It's not his demeanor. It's not his demeanor. He's very stoic. But
Zelensky, Zelensky saw the deal, which essentially he's going to sign today because it really hasn't changed much. Although some of the changes, at least what I've seen, we're not ecstatic about. Number one, it's the way the deal is described. We've put $350 billion up.
Right.
The Europeans have put $100 billion up. The Europeans have put, according to President Trump, have put in as loans. It's going to be paid back now.
Well, but President Trump actually said yesterday when I saw him in the West Wing yesterday, and he said that the European loans are actually backstopped by the Russian money that's frozen in those assets.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're drawing off that.
We've disagreed with from day one. That they took the Russian dollar-denominated assets. In fact, their loans may be about stuff they grabbed in the EU, but we grabbed all the dollar-denominated and are monetizing that by allowing these loans to be backstopped, which is the Russian people's money. Forget the KGB; it's the Russian people's money. It's outrageous that our ally in World War II we're essentially stealing, and Jim Rickards and everybody backs me up on this. They're stealing that money, but
it's the same thing they were trying to do in the 90s.
Here we go, right here.
The Clintons did in the 90s.
Jack, you want to walk us through the operation here as the flags come up?
So you're seeing the 50-state flags now. They're being presented. Zelensky's motorcade should be coming here any minute. Do we have audio?
We don't need. Well, I don't need audio when I got Jack Posobiec.
No. The band may have started.
Yeah. Do we have the audio out there by the band?
And that's how we'll know. That's how we'll know it's getting close. But when you see the flags go up, you see some movement in the back there. So this is imminent, and people need to remember that it's been 3 years. It's 3 years since the war started, and Steve, even to another extent, it's been almost 6 years since the phone call.
I am so honored to be with Jack Posobiec, Ben Harnwell, Stephen K. Bannon, the entire war room, Humanist Daily. We were adamantly opposed from this war from the very beginning of it. The night before, Jack came on the day of it. We were outraged that this was allowed to happen. Boris Johnson and other people had stuck their nose in this thing. There was no reason for this war to start. If President Trump had been the president of the United States,
could have had a peace deal 1 month into it.
And I mean, look at it. President Trump comes back, right? And we're 5 weeks into it. We got the cartels on the run, and he's basically set the framework for a ceasefire and really for a peace deal. And after 3 years, and according to President Trump's numbers, 1 million dead or wounded Ukrainians. The place looks like Dresden in 1945, and you got 600,000 or 700,000.
That sort of back briefing at Mar-a-Lago.
Talk to us about that. What President Trump's adamant about this. I mean, he thinks the carnage of this.
He goes and he tells people at every event. So he shows up at, and that was Russ Vogt's event that we held down there at the Center for Renewing America, and President Trump comes in with. President Trump comes in.
Oh, we just found out there's no band.
There's no band.
That means they're not. This is not fully rolled out.
Yesterday we had the full band. Yesterday we had that's why I brought it up.
That's because you're an ally. When you're an ally, you get a different deal.
Stay in Blair House.
This guy's not an ally.
Band.
No Blair House. You get a band. You get some music. You get some great.
So look, just
you
look
get
at
some John Philip Sousa.
Difference.
Right.
This is like when the Chinese had Biden come off the back of the plane. You remember that?
This is yes. Or this is like if you see The Right Stuff, the film we love and we end with. You see The Right Stuff. You have the Alan Shepard and the John Glenn, the Alan Shepard going to the White House,
right.
The wife going to the White House, and then Gus Grissom because of the situation with the Bolts. His wife shows up, and I think they're at Cocoa Beach, and he says, "Hey, I want lunch with Jackie at the White House." Zelensky's wife, I don't think he's going to have lunch with Melania today. No lunch.
Not on the schedule.
Not on the schedule.
Not on the schedule.
President
First
Trump.
lady's tough to get lunch with.
President Trump, and remember the mainstream media. And you saw it today in the cold open. We played the mainstream media just dog President Trump about this very topic from the absolute beginning. And this was his position on Ukraine. What President Trump is trying to do geostrategically is to pivot and look at the Eurasian landmass and say, hey, look, the post-war international rules-based order was gained by the globalists, particularly with using China and the Lao Beijing as slave labor to ship all the factories over there. All the high-paying jobs are now gone to slave labor of the Lao Beijing.
Well, and this is the elite merger between Western capital and the Chinese Communist Party.
And the totalitarian model, which they kind of brought here. Which is
the technocratic model. That's where you get Fauci. That's where you get the edicts from government.
This is where you get the oligarchs in Silicon Valley. You get the huge concentrated.
Which they'd love, because then instead of having to deal with elected representatives, you go to one guy.
In Semaphore, I'll get it up later today. Semaphore had a great...
Here
we go right here.
Is that the limo?
I think here we go. Historic day for President Trump and the MAGA movement. Zelensky essentially coming, I'm not saying signing a surrender document, but basically there's Zelensky's. Okay. Up to the, if we cut to the other shot, there we go. That's security van right there, Jack Posobiec.
And that'll be his delegation, his details.
If we cut to the side shot.
Other officials that are with him. And he'll be pulling up right now.
Okay,
President
there we
Trump
go. President Trump actually outside.
You see the Marine Corporal.
There's President Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States, in a historic day for him.
Steve, we could have had World War III.
We had World War III. This is worse than the start of the Second World War. This man right here stopped it. He deserves the Nobel Peace Prize.
And the American people.
Yes. The MAGA movement
has
his
Nobel
back.
Prize worthy.
Hope this guy's in a suit, at least a jacket.
He's got a turtleneck. Steve.
Okay, but at least he's
same thing. That's the same thing he was wearing when Besant met him.
There's a historic shot right there. President Donald J. Trump, look at that, with President Zelensky of Ukraine going inside. So here's what's going to happen, and Charlie Kirk is going to pick up at 11. It's 20 after. Alexei's going to pick up at noon. President Trump now, when he walks inside, that's a very small reception area. He goes right in past the Roosevelt Room to the Oval Office. He sits in those two yellow chairs. Great shot there, guys. Fantastic.
And is Brian there?
Brian Glenn is going to be inside. He's the press pool, and this is how important what we said the other day. Caroline Leavitt and Susie Wiles kind of taking control with Taylor Bodowich and others. Stephen Chung, that great comms team.
Incredible team.
And incredible team. And they've said, hey.
They understand new media.
New media. And people, listen, we are giving right now, I looked the other day, I talked to Rob Sigg. I mean, we're 4 or 5 hours live either on Capitol Hill or at the White House every day. People want to see this. This is history in the making. And if you have people that
I'm doing my hour, we'll have Brian on, we have Natalie on.
And if you have people that can contextualize it, like, the two of us and others that can contextualize what's going, have either been working there and or know what's going on the geostrategic side. Okay, the guys are going to take they're going to take a break there. I guess they're going to stick around, or they're going to. I guess will they hang for the exit, or will they? Depends. We're going to go inside. Brian Glenn.
Well, they'll set up for the bylet next.
Yeah. Brian Glenn is here. We go right here.
So you strike the colors, then you move in.
So they go to the Oval. There'll be a few minutes with Zelensky and the president. Now it's scheduled for. It was scheduled for 11, so the president may go right to it. What's happening right now? There's the residence right there. To your right of your screen is the West Wing of the White House. The president will be in the Oval. It'll be a few minutes. He'll have some conversation. President Trump normally likes at the very beginning, after he's had a few minutes, is to have what we call a press avail. It's not a press conference; it's a press avail. Normally, under Biden and others, they come in and what they do is it's just photographs, cameras. The press may ask questions, but they won't engage the press. President Trump's the exact opposite. I mean, it's almost like FDR in a fireside chat. The president engages the press. What he wants to do, and I think he's put good discipline, he wants them to stay on the subject at hand. He doesn't want just random, the hate-filled questions they got. He wants to stay on there. And so we're going to cut as soon as Brian Glenn is going to be in the room today. What they've done in the press pool, ladies and gentlemen, traditionally the White House Correspondents Association literally runs the deal in the White House. And I'm not kidding you. You have an independent association that is founded and run by the legacy media, the New York Times, the Associated Press, NBC News, CBS. These are the ones that made all the decision. We're going to take a break at the bottom. If we cut to the White House, we'll come back for the thing. Okay, we're going to take a break in a minute. So what Caroline Leavitt, Susie Wiles, Taylor Bodowich, and Stephen Chung came up with is say, hey, look, we're tired of this because we're getting more real-time coverage from the streaming services and the podcasters, and they're here 24/7. And we've kind of committed to do this. The reason
In fact, yesterday, the first footage I saw from when we were walking out was RSBN.
RSBN.
Because they're just live all the time.
And here's what I tell people. It's so amazing. You're seeing history being made. You can't get better television than this.
This is radical transparency.
Radical
this
transparency.
Is not the Biden administration. Remember, in the Biden administration, you have 4 years, and Jake Tapper's got the new book with Alex Inglestall coming out saying, oh, there was a cover-up. It was a big cover. Yeah, well, you covered it up. You covered it up.
I know, but it's shocking he said that. And Biden's deputy president.
This is historical revisionism. It's historical revisionism. This is their version of history.
Biden's at one of these Institute of Politics yesterday said they were gaslighting people. I mean, he admitted that they knew there was a cognitive decline.
No. Steve, what you're seeing is a full court press to conduct the historical revisionism of the first draft of history, that the media never did this. It was all Biden. The media wasn't at fault. The media didn't lie. The media didn't participate in this. The media has real sources. You should trust them because they have a huge problem on their hands. Because the press pool, the same WHCA that is demanding their Oval Office access right now to Caroline Leavitt and suing, even though they lost over the Gulf of America. By the way, thank you, Kevin Posobiec. That it all comes down to.
I told you, but
they covered it up.
Kevin's going to be the Posobiec brother that's remembered in history.
He's already in history.
He named the Gulf of America.
No, but think of it, Steve. It starts with him on a wave runner, and it goes to the Associated Press getting kicked out of the Oval.
And his brother Jack is a heat shield for Pam Bondi.
I mean, what's the ups and downs, man? One goes up, one goes down. I don't know.
And we don't mean to make light of that. That was I think it's the only time in the Trump administration that there's been a hiccup or a speed bump, and I know they're trying to sort that out. If anybody can sort it out, it's Kash Patel. So that thing's going to get sorted out. I just with the people. This is why you need Dan Bongino over there.
Look. Whether or not it was gun decked, the idea is you had Merrick Garland in that position.
I got it.
So we are 1,000 miles away.
But
1,000 years away.
But people want to see action. And I think
100%.
Worse, they were teed up. There was going to be action.
Yes.
I think the Jesse Waters thing. She would love to be able to take that back. I think got people to anticipate. Okay, we're here at Patriot Mobile, one of our sponsors, live in their studio. I want to thank Glenn Sturry and the great team here, giving a big speech tonight with Jack, entire crew down here, Dr. Taylor Marshall, Amanda Milius. Also, our sponsor, Birch Gold, birchgold.com, End of the Dollar Empire. Go there today. maybe not even get that. Just talk to Philip Patrick. Ask him and his team why gold seems to reach an all-time high every 5 days now in this new year. Birchgold.com, or you can text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898 to get the ultimate guide to buying gold in the era of Trump.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. You want to go to Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy joins us, My Patriot Supply. By the way, we're going to cut away if we go to the Oval Office live. President Trump is now talking to Zelensky. Tim, give us your background and why do you use My Patriot Supply, sir?
And I've 20 years in special operations and part of a nonprofit organization called Save Our Allies. We were in Afghanistan during the withdrawal, and then we were in Ukraine doing humanitarian aid at the front lines. I was deployed to the Mexican border, and ultimately, in these horrific situations, crisis, war, even for Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina, which was apocalyptic level disaster with zero support from FEMA. And matter of fact, they're trying to get in our way. The only way that we were able to help people was with the right equipment and obviously the right training with the right people. Things like gridlock, where we have batteries and solar power and the ability to, provide heat for people and even food in emergency situations. So that kind of expeditionary special operations background, you have to have good equipment. And that's one of the many reasons why I use their stuff.
Hey, by the way, this must be a big day for you. President Trump's bringing peace to Ukraine. The predicate is this economic deal. And you see the Mexican cartels last night, the Mexican government finally coughed up after years. And this is why people should understand the power of President Trump. This has been 30 years, and they've said no way. In fact, they've got the guy that tortured the DEA agent in San Diego. The Mexican government has been adamant about not turning this up. It's a big day for you, being that you've dealt in both areas, right, Tim?
I mean, that's the truth. You know, it's some of the worst and most horrific moments of my life have, you know, we're in Ukraine, Afghanistan, and on the Mexican border. I live in Texas as well. Seeing what has happened with the immigration crisis and the humanitarian crisis as the second order effect related to that, all being manipulated by the cartels, you know, drugs, guns, and people as their product, all of which are at the expense of the innocent and civilians. So like, I'm so excited about this. This is a historic day, and I cannot be more excited about what change is coming.
Tim, tell us why do you use My Patriot Supply? What's so special about them?
But there's a lot of people kind of in that preparedness, survivalist space. You know, on the hobbyist side, I have 4 children, and I like hopping on a canoe and going down the Colorado River and hopping in my Land Cruiser with the top tent. It just makes everything easy. That's just on, you know, the everyday lifestyle necessity of having good stuff. But then, you know, heaven forbid, the Trump effect doesn't continue and there is a conflict somewhere. There is a gap that has to be filled. I hop on a plane, I fly overseas with, you know, whether it's in uniform as I'm still serving and as a National Guard member, or if I, you know, am going as a volunteer for Save Our Allies, I'm going to have good equipment in my bags. You know, I am going to have power. I am going to have a Starlink. I am going to have a battery pack. I'm absolutely going to have solar panels. You know, communication movement is life, and you have to have the right equipment to be able to do that. So, you know, it just was very easy to like, hey, I got to use this stuff because it's the best stuff.
You've also got you also done a little UFC fighting, is what I understand, sir?
Yes, I for almost 20 years I was a professional fighter, fought for the world title a couple of times, fought in the UFC. You know, talking with the FBI right now about helping the FBI put together a warrior program based on mixed martial arts. You know, using jiu-jitsu and fighting to put back the warrior ethos back into the bureau. Wow. Very necessary. Kash Patel is the man for the job.
Tim, would you get Kash Patel in that program as well? Were we going to get Kash Patel smartened up on some of these moves?
I think you'd be surprised. Director Patel is he's a force. He would be a problem for most people, but fortunately, you know, in a suit and a tie, he's attacking the larger problems.
No. The jacket comes off. The jacket comes off.
Hey, Posobiec. Hang Posobiec. Kash Patel is going to bail out you and Pam Bondi and all the influencers, right? My man, Kash organize that mess they got over there, particularly all the documents on this Epstein stuff, and let's get it over to DOJ and get it out. Kash. Tim, My Patriot Supply, where do the people go today? I want to make sure reason I love My Patriot Supply, you guys inundate people with information. So people say, hey, I'm not a prepper. You know, I've never believed in this stuff. I don't think it's the end of the world. This is actually something today you've really got to focus on. Where do folks go to get more information?
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part is it makes it super, super simple. Like on YouTube, I'm walking into my office, so you can see I have a whole bunch of battery packs and solar panels laid out because I'm going to be shooting a video about how to use this stuff. If you just go to My Patriot Supply, you can pick it. There's pictures that explain how to do it. If this ogre, hairy-handed human can do it, you can absolutely do it. So like, just go to My Patriot Supply, and you can get it done pretty simply.
Brother, thank you. So great to have you on here. Look forward to having you back. Tim, you're a hero to so many people. I got to tell you, you keep getting it done, brother. You're a patriot.
You know, Steve, by the way, on that
My Patriot Supply, that's,
you know, it's not just for the chaos too. You got weather. You got. By the way, throw some in the back of your car.
Well, he's saying take it when you take the family down the river and you're doing
take
that
down the river. Something vacation. Summer's coming up. Spring's coming up. But you could throw it back in your car. If you're in car trouble, you're stuck on some road out here in Texas between towns. Hey, you got something you can snack on until help comes.
I love the fact that Tim, who served his country and has done so many things on a philanthropic and humanitarian side, is now
Tim's great.
with My Patriot, because this guy's one of the best
He was
guys.
big in the Afghan withdrawal. We got to talk to him about that.
Yeah, no. And as you know, President Trump has now told Pete Hegseth, I want a full accounting of this, that you can't go. Until we go back to the Oval Office, I want to talk about, we came down to Texas for a very specific reason, right?
Yes.
We're here at Patriot Mobile. We're going to have more local folks on here, hopefully maybe at the 5 and 6 o'clock hour. Natalie, by the way, if you still don't have a ticket
I'll
tonight,
have someone Human Events as well.
Just go to the site right there. It's in Tarrant County tonight. I want to make sure everybody's got available. They are opening up additional seats so that people can
you go to magagala.org.
Magagala.org. Jack's got the 2020 vision. Magagala.org. They're still opening up general admission seats. I'll be there. Jack and I will be meeting and greeting everybody. Amanda Millies, I think, is going to be there.
Tanya Tay,
Dr. Taylor Marshall. It's a whole crowd of us. And the reason we're here is to support MAGA in Texas. I find it outrageous in the railhead. And look, Florida's great, Ohio's great, Arizona's great. We got some amazing MAGA states. But here you've got, I think, the railhead of MAGA. Soros put $300 million into Turn Texas Blue. Now, the closest they got was
Pink. They wanted
Pink.
to knock off Ted Cruz. They wanted to knock off Abbott. And they kept saying that, remember, they were saying they were going to send Michelle Obama down here and they were going to do all the rallies and Kamala was going to come in, and it never went anywhere.
Well,
but
here's why, because the MAGA, President Trump won by 14 points.
Right.
Ted Cruz won by 9 points. The MAGA movement is active, and you got some of the best people here.
Because they flipped areas that Karl Rove, who's a Texan supposedly, they told us these areas, the Rio Grande Valley, they told us these hardscrabble areas, they told us there were blue areas, these are Hispanic, they're working class, they're never, ever going to go for Trump, they're never going to go to the right, so you got to run up to, the white suburbs of Dallas, and that's where you're going to find your stuff. Trump did it the complete opposite way.
No, and look, we did. There's counties like Stark County down in South Texas. You got Stark County, 97% Hispanic, one of the most hardscrabble counties in the country. We lost in 2016 to Hillary Clinton by 16 points. Or excuse me, by 60 points. President Trump won in 2024 by 16. That is the kind of thing that's totally outlawed by Karl Rove and those guys who say absolutely
And
not.
those guys are pushing
Let's
amnesty.
get Lee in here right now.
They were pushing amnesty the whole time.
Can we blow the break also in case we got to go back to the White House? We're waiting for. Come on in, Lee. You stand right here. We'll put this.
Like the Beatles.
Cool.
So Lee, talk to us about My Patriot PAC. Why are we here? This big fight for the grassroots. We may have to cut away. to the White House here momentarily. But hold on, what is this? There's no script. No, man, you're in the war room.
No scripts in the war room.
No scripts in the war room.
No scripts in the war room.
You're a natural. You're a natural. You don't need a script.
Well, so what's happening in the House right now, as you know, the speaker's race was won by Democrat votes. And so when they did that, they redid the rules in the Texas House, and they required.
So how do we lose? How do you have this great? You stop the impeachment of Paxson.
Mm-hmm.
You have a huge turnout. Trump wins by 14. We pick up House seats. You got Ted Cruz by 9, a biggest victory he's ever had. How do you then turn around and lose? How do we lose a race to take the speakership? That's what people want to know. First of all, how do we lose that? Everything else kind of comes from that.
Well, the problem is we have open primaries, so Democrats come over and help elect more moderate Rhino Republicans to our House races. And when they get down to Austin, you talk about the D.C. swamp. The Austin swamp is just as bad. We had all these Republicans flip over and vote with Democrats to elect our speaker. And just last week, one of our committee chairs, who's Representative Jared Patterson, he's responsible for what can go to the House floor to be seen, and he refused a very standard, these guys, they set aside the rules to honor certain people. We have this wonderful patriot who passed away last year from cancer, Jill Glover. And Patterson...
And Jill was a grassroots
leader. She was so passionate about ending the gender-mutilating surgeries for children. I mean, a patriot.
So she was the tip of the spear of many of the cultural issues and others that drive the grassroots and make sure that we have these huge turnouts, right?
Statewide leader, passed away last year. She selflessly gave to our state. And this man reportedly stopped this simple resolution, which is pretty standard, to go to the House floor when he knew that family members and supporters were going to be in Austin for this day to honor her. However, he did allow the resolution to honor Beyonce to go to the floor. That happened just a week before. In Texas.
He takes a grassroots leader who gave her herself and then dies of cancer.
Yes.
A beloved figure.
Beloved.
On issues of, the transgender ideology, others. And yet he stops that, and he awards Beyonce, who's alive, will be around, forever. He gives her a shout out.
He allows that to go through. The resolution passed, and it was on the floor of the Texas House.
Is that to mock the grassroots? Do they do these types of things to let you guys know they're in control?
I think it's very vindictive, and I think it's pretty sad. I don't understand what kind of human being can have that much hate in your heart for someone to not allow a selfless grassroots worker to be honored like that, especially knowing people had traveled for hours to be there to honor her. But that's just some of the things happening in the House. This new speaker, while he says he got rid of Democrat chairs for committees, which we've been fighting, he rewrote the rules to require all of the vice chairs of all of the committees to be Democrats in Texas and empowered them even more. So they still have the power to stop legislation or pass legislation. It's absolutely insane. They're trying to beat us down and make us stop. And let me tell you, it's going to have the opposite effect, Steve. We're even more empowered. We're going to work even harder, and we're going to keep pushing to make Texas, Texas again.
So,
I love that, by the way.
The reason
Texas again.
The reason, and Jack, jump in here. The reason we came down here is that, and we're going to spend a lot of time in Texas over the next year. One of the reasons is that for the precinct strategy, I hear this all the time, particularly South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, places where people, Nebraska, Arizona, that where the Trump movement and the MAGA movement is winning elections and has precincts and now goes to state parties and they're taking it over. This rearguard action by the kind of business community of the traditional country club Republicans absolutely will not cede control. And I keep telling people, Texas is the key fight. If we can't do it here in Texas, given this outpouring of support of President Trump, is this a nationwide problem that you're just having manifested here are you blocking my shot, Harry? Okay, fine. Harry just blocked the sun there. Jack, jump in here too. So is this a nationwide issue that in Texas we're seeing that manifested in this largest scale?
Absolutely, it's nationwide. I mean, the people who are in it for the country, right, versus the people who are in it for the power. Right?
Look,
that's the difference.
In Pennsylvania, we see
it's
it everywhere. Because down here in Texas, what do they do? They'll come election time, they'll put on a 6-shooter and put on a cowboy hat and go do a little ad and say, look at me, I'm rootin' tootin' Republican. And then everybody they win the primary, then they get swept into the general, and then they go to Austin or they go to their big boys club and they get whatever they want and they act like Democrats. They just sell out. And so this is what we see. We see it across the board, and particularly, Steve, we actually tend to see this problem more in red states than we even do in purple states.
Yeah, and part of that is, the primary process. And another part of that is we need more patriots across America to step up and run for office. Right?
How's that happen? What's it doing here in Texas? Because you've had a pretty good run so far.
We've had a pretty good run. We had a lot of wins this last session, this last election. We replaced a lot of write-ins with a lot more conservative people. And we've had the best challenge speaker race than we've had in many, many sessions. And we got a lot closer. So the good news is we're making progress. We didn't get over the finish line, but we're going to keep working until we do.
Where do you guys go from here? How do you sort this problem out?
So we just keep working. A lot of people are working at the party level to close our primaries, to keep them. We have the First Amendment right of association for Republicans to vote for Republicans. We also have a lot of grassroots people who used to sort of, fight each other, and they've come together. I think God is weaving us together.
Grassroots people fight each other? Come on.
Never.
Oh, yeah,
Never. If you want to see a fight, get the grassroots together. No fighting in the war room. Are people, I hear this a lot, people say, hey, look, I got in here, I got in the precinct strategy, we did this, but the resistance is so strong from the kind of the donor class and the country club class that it's just too much. I'm getting tired. I don't know if we're making progress. What do you tell the people, particularly in Texas, that, hey, it may get frustrating sometimes, but if you don't keep hammering, you're going to lose the fact that the whole nation is watching what MAGA does, because MAGA has the back of Donald Trump.
Well, what I say is this is a marathon, not a sprint. This war is never over. It's never going to be over, because the second we take our eye off the ball, the liberals come in and move in and take over. We're seeing that in school boards across the nation. We're seeing that in school boards in Texas. You know, we have a lot less people willing to step up to run for school board.
I'm so sorry that your best friend, Joy Reid, who loves you guys so much, has done story after story targeting you specifically for what you did in flipping those school boards. I'm so sorry she won't be there anymore.
You know, the great thing about all of the hits on me and all the hits on Patriot Mobile and Patriot Mobile Action for the work that we've done is it's given us free advertising, and our phones ring off the hook and we get more sales. So bring it on.
And more exposure to what you're doing.
Bad reviews from bad people are good reviews.
That's right. It's not all bad stuff.
What tell people how they can get and find out more about what you're doing on the PAC side and on the company side.
So on the PAC side, patriotmobileaction.com. You can learn a lot more there. We're going into municipal races right now on Patriot Mobile. That's patriotmobile.com, and use the Steve Bannon code for a discount. And we'd love to have you. We're all U.S. based. We're on all 3 major networks across America. And with Patriot Mobile, the money that you're giving, we give a portion of every dollar earned to Christian conservative causes out there on the ground fighting for freedom.
Is this why Joanne Reid and MSNBC particularly went after you guys so hard? Because you're a Christian-based company with Christian values, and you give so much back to different organizations, and you're at the forefront of fighting on the PAC side, not just political issues, but also cultural issues about getting God back in the classroom. Is that why they came after you so hard?
It's absolutely why, and it just triggers them. They can't understand it, and what we want to do is help more red economy organizations and companies come out and stand for their principles, put their money where their mouth is. And we are working hard every day. I say we live exhausted, but we're ready to go again every day, because that's our mission. That's what we live for. We exist to honor God and to give back and to keep America free.
Do you have social media that they can go and follow you on?
We do. So at Patriot Mobile on X and at Patriot Mobile Action on X as well.
Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
We're
going to be here.
Good to see you.
Lee will join us also tomorrow, so we appreciate you. Zelensky in the White House, what's going to happen?
Look, we need to go, and whether or not we have footage up, I'd love to see, because we need to know, is he...
We're not live. We're going to go live to the Oval. We're going to go live to the Oval as soon as...
Is he going to sign the deal as stated? Because I had the opportunity to speak with the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, as well as CIA Director Ratcliffe yesterday, and I explained, look, this guy will tell you one thing, and then he comes into the room and he starts playing games. That's exactly what happened with Bessent, and so if someone does something in the past, you should expect them to do it in the future.
Do you think
keep an eye on
the delay? Let's be blunt. He was supposed to be on the grounds at 11 o'clock. He did not really come on until 11:25.
There was a delay in Kiev as well. When we went to Kiev, it was the same thing. They made Bessent wait. He just made Trump wait.
Do you think it's because there's some uncertainty about whether he's going to sign that? By the way, this deal, which I'm not crazy about, but I support the president in the fact that the president's doing this as a first step to a larger, a rapprochement with Russia.
What I'm saying is,
are you saying that you think he gave the White House grief this morning that he wasn't going to sign it? That's why he's late?
When we went there in Kiev, we thought it was a perfunctory, for like a formal signing. That was what it was going to be. You go there, you do the thing, you come back. And he starts renegotiating. He starts hemming and hawing. He starts asking for this. He starts asking for that. I'm just saying, Steve, it certainly could have happened this morning.
You don't trust the guy, and you don't think the trust...
But I trust Bessent when he said yesterday the deal is done. But that being said, until that thing is inked with Zelensky's signature...
Well, they were told, Brian Glenn told us it was going to be 10 or 15 minutes before they let him in. They've been in over 30 so far.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Trump is not a fan of this guy. Let's be blunt. He's not a fan of Zelensky.
Call him a dictator.
You can see the chemistry. Mike Lindell, what do you got for us, brother? Understand you're in incredible pressure there in Minnesota. We may have to break away as soon as we go live to the Oval Office. Charlie Kirk's going to follow us at noon. They'll go live. Also, you got Jack Posobiec's going to be back at 2 o'clock. Mike Lindell, what do you got for us?
Well, we got you guys. We're getting the War Room special that you all love. We're running it till they're all out. Once they're gone, they're gone. This is, if you've never tried the MyPillow 2.0, this is the MyPillow 2.0, and you get any one of the pillowcases with it for $9.98. And free shipping. So you guys, if you've never tried one, now's the time to try one. We're putting a limit on 15. When they're gone, they're gone. I want everybody to get one and use promo code War Room. You guys, this is the gift of a lifetime. I mean, you guys use this. I use it everywhere I go. I use it for sitting on, backrest, sleeping, take it traveling, to use it on your couches everywhere. It's the most versatile pillow ever made. Go to the website. There's the free shipping. You guys, this is an exclusive blanket sale for the War Room. It's a flash sale. You save up to 80%. All of our blankets, we're clearing out the blankets, and you guys get them for up to 80% off. The My Cross is another War Room exclusive, everybody. Get those crosses 30% off with promo code War Room, and promo code War Room. Get the beds right now. This free shipping is going to be going away. I can tell you that. I don't know which day, but get the beds and the mattress toppers now on sale with that free shipping with these big ticket items. And then you have there's still a few of the flannel sheets left. Most of the sizes are gone, but go there. We got a big discount for the War Room Posse. And then let's not forget my store. Thousands of entrepreneurs and USA-made products, mystore.com. You can use that promo code War Room there, too, to support all them. And there you can shop to get everything you can imagine at mystore.com. Okay. Same number, 800-873-1062.
Okay, mypillow.com, promo code War Room. Mike, thank you. We'll see you this afternoon. We got breaking news. Jack from the Oval Office.
From the Oval Office, President Trump just said and announced that the mineral deal will be signed this afternoon. So that's what we were expecting.
Probably in the
East Room, do the signing, then the bilat.
The bilat. So stick around. We got Charlie Kirk is up next. We're going to continue live coverage from the White House. Jack Posobiec follows that. Then you got Steve Gruber. You got Brother Bowling. We're back at 5 o'clock. Here we'll be live from Patriot Mobile. Also, Natalie will be helping us. Also, another press organization is in the Oval today to report on this. What is that, sir?
TASS, one of the Russian wire services, is in the press pool today.
Well, I think it's, like I said, this is the beginning of a rapprochement. This is a step leading to a bigger deal.
That's so that the Russians can see this is going on.
See it live. I want to thank Real America's Voice for all the great coverage today from the White House. Brian Glenn is in the Oval. Brian will be on Air Force One this afternoon. Natalie will be covering, I think, the East Room press conference. Patriot Mobile, we're going to be doing a lot more drill down. We came to Texas for the simple reason to find out what in the hell is going on down here. So we're going to do a lot more on that this afternoon, and also tomorrow morning. The Saturday show will be live from here. We're going to leave you with the right stuff. It's what Texas has. The right stuff, and also the MAGA movement. A epic book by Tom Wolfe, epic movie by Philip Kaufman, epic movie music by Brother Conte, who won the Academy Award for best soundtrack, best score. We'll see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when you'll be live in the War Room.